The glass was set down again, a little closer to the edge than before. Not placed. Set down. Fingers loosened their hold and then hovered, not leaving right away. The rim caught a thin line of light, then lost it. The surface of the water stayed flat. No movement. The glass did not tremble. It had been lifted only moments earlier. Lowered. Lifted again. Lowered again. Each time, the same distance. Each time, the same pause before letting go. The hand rested nearby, palm open, as if waiting for something small to finish happening. Nothing did. The room held its breath without meaning to. Sounds that usually filled the space did not arrive. Even the air felt slower, thicker around the glass. The water inside reflected nothing clearly. Just a blur of pale shapes that never settled into form. The person remained still. Not stiff, just unmoving in a way that felt temporary, as if motion had been delayed rather than stopped. The glass stayed where it was, close to falling but not falling, close enough to notice, not close enough to matter. A thumb traced the edge of the base once. Then again, the same small circle, the same pressure. The glass did not respond. It stayed cool, solid, ordinary. Somewhere in the body, a breath waited to be taken. It did not hurry. The chest did not rise yet. The pause stretched, thin and quiet, held in place by nothing more than habit. The glass had been used many times before, lifted without thought, emptied without attention, set down without care. Now it asked for none of that. It simply remained, full enough, clear enough, present. The light shifted slightly. Not enough to explain, just enough to notice that it had shifted at all. The rim dimmed. The water darkened. The edge of the glass blurred into the surface beneath it. The hand withdrew a few inches. Stopped. Returned. Not touching. Almost touching. The space between skin and glass felt wider than it should have. This was not a moment that announced itself. It did not arrive with weight or meaning. It did not point forward or backward. It stayed exactly where it was. Balanced, unfinished, and strangely calm, as if waiting to be recognized, or to pass without leaving anything behind. The glass stayed where it had been left. Tom did not move forward. It folded in on itself, repeating the same narrow stretch again and again. The water did not lower. The surface did not ripple. Even a faint line where glass met table remained unchanged, as if pressed there. The person shifted weight slightly. Not a step, just enough to register that a body was still present. Muscles adjusted. The hand that had hovered earlier now rested against the side of the table. Fingers relaxed, curved inward. The glass remained untouched. Seconds gathered without stacking into minutes. Each one arrived alone, thin and quiet, then stayed. The space around the glass felt measured by them. Countable, but never counted. A breath came and went. Then another. Both shallow. Neither meant to be. The chest rose just enough to allow air, then settled back into stillness. The sound of it barely existed. If it had, it would have vanished quickly. The light held steady. It did not brighten or fade in any meaningful way. It simply continued. The glass accepted it without reflection. The water inside looked heavier now, darker by a fraction, though nothing had changed. The table beneath carried small marks, old ones, faint lines that crossed and faded. They did not draw attention to themselves. They only existed beneath the glass, unnoticed, holding its weight without effort. The person's attention did not wander. It stayed near the glass, not fixed, not focused, just present. Thoughts did not form clearly. They hovered in the same way the hand had earlier, close but not committed. Nothing interrupted the moment. No sound arrived to break it open. No reason appeared to explain it. The glass did not tip. The edge remained an edge, not yet a fall. The hand lifted slightly, paused, lowered again without touching anything. The movement was small enough to be forgotten as soon as it ended. This was the moment held. Not tightened. Not examined. Just held. The glass remained ordinary. The water remained still. The person remained nearby. And in that narrow space, nothing happened strongly enough to replace what was already there. The glass began to show more than it held. Not clearly. Not all at once. Its surface carried faint distortions where light bent and broke. The rim curved the room into something softer, less exact. Edges that had been straight no longer were. The water inside took on a quiet depth, darker toward the center, lighter near the sides, as if holding layers that could not be separated. The person noticed these details without leaning closer. The distance stayed the same. The body remained where it was, balanced, waiting, as if moving would interrupt something delicate. The hand rested again on the table. The skin there had warmed the surface slightly. That warmth stayed behind even after the fingers shifted. The glass stood just beyond it, unaffected, unchanged. A small mark near the base caught attention. A line, barely visible, where the glass had once been chipped and smoothed over. It did not weaken the glass. It did not threaten it. It only existed as proof of something earlier, something brief that had not lasted. The water reflected that mark, bending it into a pale curve. The reflection moved when the light shifted, though the glass did not. The effect was subtle enough to feel imagined. The person's breathing slowed further, not intentionally. The pauses between breaths lengthened. Each inhale arrived late. Each exhale left early. The body seemed to follow the stillness rather than resist it. Nothing pressed for attention outside this small arrangement. The table, the glass, the space between them. Everything else faded to the edges without disappearing completely. The glass stood upright, balanced, its weight pressed down evenly. The water remained contained, quiet, held by thin walls that had done this same work countless times before. This closeness allowed noticing things that usually passed unseen. The way the rim was slightly uneven. The way the base touched the surface at exactly 3 points. The way the waterline curved upward along the sides. None of it mattered. All of it was there. The moment did not ask to be understood. It only allowed itself to be seen. Fully. Slowly. Without explanation. The glass stayed. The person stayed. And for a brief stretch, that did not measure itself. Observation replaced movement, and nothing else entered to take its place. The shift was small enough to miss. The glass did not move first. The light did. It slid away from the rim and settled somewhere else, thinning until the edge no longer caught it. The water lost its depth and became plain again. Clear, flat, just water. The person's hand closed this time. Not quickly, not with decision. Fingers curved, found a familiar shape, and lifted the glass without pause. The edge left the table cleanly. No hesitation, no adjustment. The space it had occupied remained for a moment. A faint circle of coolness. A place where weight had been. Then even that faded. The glass rose to the same height it always had. The motion matched a habit practiced long ago. The body knew what to do without needing to think. The water shifted once, lightly touching the sides, then settled again. A swallow followed, quiet, complete. The water lowered just enough to notice afterward. The glass tilted, then returned upright, already on its way back down. When it was set down again, it landed farther from the edge. Not intentionally, just different. The sound it made was ordinary, brief, unremarkable. The moment loosened its hold. Air moved more freely. The chest lifted more fully now. A longer breath came and went without effort. The room resumed its subtle sounds. Small ones, familiar ones, enough to remind that time had continued. The glass stood where it was placed, still an object, still clear, still doing what it had always done. It no longer asked to be noticed. Attention drifted without resistance. The person turned slightly. Weight shifted. Another movement followed. Nothing was rushed. Nothing lingered. What had been held slipped away without leaving a mark. No line remained to show where it had paused. No signal marked its ending. Only the glass stayed behind. Unchanged. Ordinary again. Resting on the table as it always had. While the moment that had gathered around it passed quietly on, leaving the space as it had found it. Not every memory is clear, but some never leave. They remain quietly, waiting for an ordinary moment to return. If this story brought something back, it has done enough.